Hey HDDA and welcome back to Satisfactory. Today we are going to be building a bus because I am not quite happy about this kind of static storage facility that I'm building here, and having to ferry back and forth resources is not efficient either. And in general, I've noticed that when we were doing some of the larger builds, I was actually required to run up and down my bases a little bit to get our different resources, because right now we're making copper type of items over there, we are making steel over there, we are making the smart plates and stuff like that over there, we have the basic plates and rods in the back, we have a separate concrete facility, we actually have the rubber and plastic now all the way in the back on the other end of the, the valley, or whatever you want to call it, at the beach over there, like all the way over there. We also have the coal facility, the quartz facility, etc, etc. So basically, right now we've gotten to the part of the game where our facility is getting so widespread that, first of all, we need an efficient way to transport stuff between facilities. I also think we need a central storage, but this episode is going to be about the bus. We will definitely need that central storage as well, but I'm saving that for the next episode. So make sure you join that as well. But for now, let's make a bus. Now, I don't want to be building just any bus. I want to be a little bit smart about that. And actually, I think I already got kind of the idea in one of the earlier episodes over here, when we were building this facility, where we did make something that kind of looks like a bus already. As you can see, we have it raised from the ground, which I think is important because that makes it a lot easier to get underneath and just get around your around the map in general. I also think having it raised just makes it look a lot more clean. As you can see, this basically keeps at the same level for a very long time. It actually does go down near the back because the general area goes down in the back as well. But all in all, it looks pretty clean. Now, when I say we are going to make a bus, we want to make a smart bus. So we're not going to just dump resources upon the resources on it just because we can. No, we want to make a bus that is dedicated to bringing resources from A to B, from where they are to where they need to go. Not just anywhere, but actually where they need to go. And then get off that bus as well, so we can use that same space for something else. Because what I've seen people doing is basically stack belt upon belt upon belt, and then have like 50 belts or something like that going. And well, it works, but it's kind of like brute forcing the problem, and I think we can do it a lot smarter. What I also want to do is make sure our bus is going to be easy to build, easy to extend, and I also want to be including the hypertubes in it, because to be honest, I'm not really happy about how my current hypertube system is looking. It's working, it goes from A to B and it goes all the way around the map and stuff like that, but I think if we tie it into the bus by default will be going from facility to facility. It makes it a lot more clean. What we can also do actually is make sure we are transporting the power along the bus as well. And if we build it smart, even we could be able to extend it to maybe include trains at some point, which actually I haven't unlocked right now. I also want to make sure the bus is constructed in such a way that we could have started it a lot earlier. I will actually have to start it all the way from scratch because I haven't actually done it. I'm gonna be connecting all my facilities together, and I have a pretty sweet design in mind, I think. So, let me clear out this existing bus and let's get started. Alright, and that's a lot better. Now you do see some of these belts still up over here. These are the belts where we are transporting the screws on one side that we're producing over here to the other side where they're all getting used, so there's no point in putting them on the bus. And we are also making these reinforced iron plates as well as the rotors over here, which are actually being used in the last part of our facility as well. And then not completely being used because we have some surplus, but they're also being exported over here. So this is all at the end where we also have this kind of storage facility over here. We will need to make sure we onboard a lot of stuff on our bus. And at the start over here, we have the rods going in. We also have the plates going in. So we have a couple of places where we have to exit some stuff from our bus. Now, let's start building our bus over here. And I'll show you how to do that. It's going to be pretty straightforward. We want it at least 3 high. Then we are going to be building a platform over here, which is going to look something like this. Now, if you build it in the way that I want it, and it's sometimes a little bit finicky, so depends a little bit on how nice you think this looks. But if you do it correctly, then you can actually have this nice cross-looking building over there. Now, the reason that this is actually giving me some trouble is because I'm doing this in vertical mode, which is not what you should be doing. And we are going to be placing inputs and outputs of these hypertubes over here. Now, by placing them about 1/4 into the next foundation, they're far enough apart that if you slow down your travel during the hypertube travel just a little bit, you will exit and you will be able to kind of fall in between without getting instantly sucked back into one of these. It's also a lot easier to move around on this platform without getting sucked in as well, because the hypertubes do kind of suck you in if you get too close. But they're also close enough that if you're traveling through a hypertube and you just want to go on to the next station, if you don't do anything, you actually have enough speed. You just keep continuing your travel through the hypertube if you don't press any buttons. So quite convenient and a very straightforward way to make sure you can get in and out of your hypertube system really easily. Now, what else do we want to do? Well, we want to be building the actual hub, or bus, I mean, sorry. And we'll need to place those over here. Now, this always gives me trouble for some reason, so I'm just going to be building a few temporary platforms over here. And then we should connect this one over here. Now, we do use a couple of things from the tickets, from the Awesome Store. These reversed inverted frame ramps are very awesome, and they really make it seem like this is carrying your belts. And I really like the looks of those. Now, we actually don't need these, so we're going to remove those. The actual belts are going to be running on top of this. We were once again going to be using some of these. And this is going to be the most complex platform, by the way. So if you're thinking, but okay, TDA, this is taking quite a long time to actually build. Don't worry, this is the most complex thing that you're ever going to be building during this bus. And if you do it correctly the first time around, it actually helps as well. And there we go. So now we have a nice little platform where we can build our bus on. We are going to have 6 belts on here. So we have 1 belt and 2 belts next to it, going through the middle over here. Then we have 1 belt through the middle over there. And then we have 3 more belts on this side. Now, this belt in the middle is going to be our main belt that is basically going to make sure we have everything going on and off to our main storage. So this is going to be kind of like the main storage belt. The belts on the sides are actually only going to be used to transport items from one factory to another to be actually used over there. And then if we have any surplus that we are not using anywhere else, then that's at that point going to go on this belt, and that belt is going to go to the main storage. Now, you might be thinking only 1 belt to the main storage. Well, don't forget at this point we can actually have 270 items on 1 belt, and most items that we really care about are only going to be being produced at like 5 or 10 or 15 per minute. So we can place a lot of those items on this belt. Now, there's a couple of things that we want to be producing in higher quantities, maybe like steel or concrete. But even if you produce that at like 20 or 30 per minute, and I'm not saying like in total, but to be actually transported to your main storage, then that's going to be plenty. So don't overproduce things that are going to go into your storage, only overproduce the things that you're actually going to be using somewhere else. Now, in order to actually get things on and off this thing, we are going to be placing down a couple of the splitters. I actually have a dedicated thing for that. There we go. The splitter is going to have to go up because we have 3 belts next to each other. So we're going to do that all like this. We can also place, let's see, one, I think something like this. And that actually doesn't need to go up. And then the last one we can build something like this. That actually also needs to go up. And like I said, this is the most complicated version that we're going to be building, because you only need to be building these splitter things when you actually need them. So when you're actually going to be putting stuff on and off that specific belt. Otherwise, you can just get it straight through and don't bother about these splitters. Like if on this side, for example, I have something on this belt that's not going anywhere, then all I need to do is this, and then that belt is done. Now, in order to connect these belts up, we are going to have to connect these, of course, like this, and then just to keep it neat, I'm also going to be doing something like this, and then have it connect all the way back up there. This one is going to go up, and if I'm not mistaken, I think this is about this distance. Yep. And it does say here and there that these belts are clipping, but there's actually no visible clipping in the game. It's just saying it's clipping because it's close to one of the other facilities, but the item should not actually be visibly clipping to anything. Now, same thing over here. Now we're actually going to have to... Well, we don't have to, but I like the looks of having it symmetric in terms of the split. So let's do that over there as well. And then we should be able to do this like this. And then down again like that. And then we have incoming times 3. Let me get on top of here. And then we have exiting 3 belts over there as well. Nice and symmetric. And that's all there is to it. Now I'm actually going to remove this glass foundation as well, so we can actually get around in our own facility. And we are going to be putting one more on top of this. And then we're going to put a roof. Now this roof is actually going to go on top of the foundation rather than in it like we've done before. And the reason for that is that otherwise it's going to be clipping with the splitters. As you can see, it is not connecting with that at all right now. It's nicely below the glass over here. And we now have the first tower mostly completed. Of course, we didn't actually make the other side, but this is the whole design. So we have the transportation in the... Can I get in here? Yep. So we have transportation in this level. Now what I actually like doing, and your preferences might be different, but I actually like making a little ladder like this. Or maybe even all the way to the top actually. Let's do that instead. For a couple of reasons. So this will actually allow us, that does mean we actually need to remove the roof. This allows us to easily get onto this level where we can deal with the belts if we need to for some reason. For example, if we are putting smart splitters on these belts, which we will likely do, then we'll need to be able to access them to make sure the settings are correct, and this allows us to get on the roof. Now getting on the roof is really important as well, because of course we will be extending this. And the way we extend this specific bus is like this. Very straightforward, like that. And being on the roof is really convenient as well. Makes it easy to get around while you don't have the hypertube up and running just yet. Especially earlier in the game as well. And as you can see, it's really easy to just extend your bus like this. Now, I do recommend just building out the roof of your bus initially before you start building all the intermediate buildings, just to make sure they're all in the right place. So make sure you have the layouts of your bus ready before you actually start to complete the entire bus. Now in this case, you can see I'm already working into the direction of my steel facility, my copper facility over there. We also need to kind of track back and make a bus towards the basic facility over here with the normal plates and the rods. We have the concrete facility in the back. We also have the Caterium facility all the way in the back over there, so there's a lot of work for me to do. But as you can see, I'm already quite a bit on my way to actually extending this. Now let me plan out a little bit further, and then I'll show you how easy it is to actually build intermediate parts of this bus. Now the initial pillar that I built was actually one to get stuff on and off the bus, but there will be a lot of places in between where you just are building one tower to make sure you can actually keep these belts up in the air, because the belts by themselves do need to be supported. Of course you can just build this and then remove it and then have them float in the air anyway. I like to keep it realistic, so you can see over there where I already built a huge part of the bus, that having just these towers in between makes it actually look really good, if you ask me. And it's actually really easy to build these. So what you can do is make sure you have kind of the same layout over there. I'll show you how to build this in a second, but make sure you have these belts on the edge of one of your foundations. Now, if you do that, then you need to count 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and then the 7th foundation should once again be a tower, because that's the maximum limit the belts will stretch. Now, in order to build it, what you do is you build from the top, and that's important to make sure you keep the height of your bus at the same height all the way around. And then you work down from the actual roof, and then you remove a couple of items from your actual thing. What I actually like doing is actually removing the roof a little bit further as well, just makes it a little easier to access. Then you are going to be dragging your hypertube, and it goes right over there in the middle. Here we go. Then we build this on top. Then we build the things to the side again. Just one will do. It's really weird. Most of the things actually require you to click twice, but for some reason these don't. And then all we need to do is make sure we place down the belts. Now, I do recommend that you make a dedicated bar to build these things. As you can see, I have a bar here with all the elements that actually go onto the bus. And yeah, that just makes it really easy and quick to build. As you can see, I am now already working on the actual conveyors. Now, the weird thing is you can actually vary the height on these specific foundations a little bit. I'm not entirely sure why that is. But you won't actually notice the difference if you just keep them as high as possible. There might be a tiny, tiny, tiny height difference between them. Honestly, I've been building these things for so many times now. I'm pretty good at actually snapping them into place on the correct height straight from the get-go. But even if there's a minimal height difference, no one will ever notice, including you. So don't fuss around that too much. Don't spend too much time getting it exactly right, because you're never going to see it. And there we go. We're already almost done. We just need to place one more on top of this. And then we need to make sure we get these back. Like that. And like that. And ta-da, we have another tower done. Now you keep doing that as far as you need to go. In terms of power, and in terms of actually completing the tower, as you can see, I wasn't able to completely reach all the parts of my tower, but just extended all the way to the floor like this. And I suggest doing that when you already built a couple of them, so you can just go past them and make sure all of them actually reach the ground. Now, in terms of the power, I recommend placing them kind of like this. At this height, just below the actual hypertube. Now, in order to do that, I'm actually going to need an outlet, because I haven't done the power over here just yet. But connecting them like this, and then connecting them just below the hypertube, makes the power run parallel to the hypertube. It's almost invisible, but yeah, it looks pretty good. In general, you might need to vary your height a little bit here and there when it comes to the actual bus. I've been able to build it in such a way, given where I started was relatively high in this specific region. So actually most of the bus is on the same level. I think if I walk in this direction, you can actually easily see that. Hello. Okay, those things are going to be in the way. Okay. They just totally went off the cliff. They do actually take fall damage. Yeah, they do. That's interesting. Anyway, as you can see, the entire bus is almost at the same level through most of my world. But over here, we're kind of reaching the higher elevations of the map, so we did need to kind of move it up. And doing that using the glass roofs makes it look really nice, really easy. I think I should be able to jump on here. Yep. And as you can see, it looks pretty much the same as the actual foundation. So it's a really clean You will still need to be building towers every 7th foundation. Just make sure you do that. If you need to take a turn in your bus, it's really easy to do as well. It's the same principle as one of the intermediate towers. Just make it a 3x3 one and connect the belts like this. And it's pretty easy and pretty clean to build. Not more complicated really than one of the intermediate towers, just a little bit more work because you need to make sure you actually align these belts properly. Yeah, so all in all, I think this looks really nice, as you can tell over there. Yeah, pretty sweet looking. It's really nice when you run under them as well, by the way. And I'll just jump down here to show you. Because the foundations are glass, the sun actually comes through it, so you don't get these huge sun-blocking buildings all across your entire base. And I just really like the looks of it. Now, let me actually show you a few connections and let me complete these towers. And then let's talk about a few of the details before we close up. And there we go, the entire bus is done, at least for my current existing facility. Now, what I really like about this design is that there's glass all over the place. It's actually not a completely block on the ground either, because it's completely raised from the ground. You can easily walk under it. Because it's glass, you can still see the sky through it, so it's not like it's blocking out the sun. You have darkness all over the place and shadows and things like that. You do have some shadows, but nothing that really bothers me a lot. And I really like how it brings the entire facility together. Now, what I also really like is that we have all the different items that we're producing now on a single facility or a single line of belts, including the Caterium, as you can see over here. And yeah, it's very easy thanks to these ladders to get in and out. We can get on the roof if that's what we want to do. But of course we also have the hypertube system now. That makes it really convenient to get around our facility. Now, I only placed a single entry point in my hypertube system at every single tower. And by every single tower, I mean every single tower where we're actually doing something. But as you can see, I'm automatically jumping in and out the towers themselves, or the pipes themselves, so I actually don't need to do anything if I just want to travel from A to B. And I do pick up speed as we go along. If you want to have a larger initial speed, just to make sure you can travel around a little bit quicker, then it's all you need to do is make sure you put down a couple of additional entry points at the start of your tower. Now, getting out of this facility is really easy. Just slow down a little bit and you can exit wherever you need to go. Just make sure you start slowing down a little bit before you actually reach that point. I also like that the creatures are still flying over this bus rather than through it. Although I do think that near the end of the bus, where we are going to be building our storage facility over there, it's actually either clipping it slightly or flying straight over it, almost on top of it. So if we place like that, like a train on top of that, it's going to have some collision there maybe, but yeah, for now that will work. Now, in order to actually get stuff on and off this bus, it's really easy. Just combine everything on a single belt and put it on the main storage line. Now, this is of course assuming that we're not using these items anywhere else, at least not anywhere close. So, and we are also not producing anything in too high quantities. So everything that's currently on these belts, we are producing in rather modest quantities, something like 20-30 per minute, some of them even less. Like the stators, we are definitely not producing 20 of those per minute right now. So combining everything onto a single belt is not a problem. All we need to do is bring that to our main storage and then make sure we have a sorting facility over there to have everything exiting that single belt. But once again, the middle belt is dedicated to single, no, not single, storage, the storage facility. The belts on the sides are actually going to be dedicated to bringing things from A to B. Even though it looks like there's a lot of items there already, actually things like the rods over here and the plates over here are actually already no longer being put on these belts. They're still here just from the fact that I was building it and setting up the bus. And we don't actually have the storage in place just yet. But right now, all the plates and all the rods on the sides are actually being used in this facility all the way in the back. And then there is a small surplus, but that surplus is actually going on this middle belt. So that's why you can already see that there's a rods in here as well, because that was the first item where I put the surplus on this belt. And because the belt right now is not moving, it shows like there's only one item on this belt, but as soon as we have the storage facility up and running, you will see that there is actually a huge number of items there already. And you can really make that very simple. So we actually are combining all the items from our copper facility over here, as well as our steel facility over here, on a single belt, as you can see over there. If I zoom in a little bit, you can already see that there's multiple items on that belt, all being combined into a single belt, and then being combined over here with all the other items, and then everything is going onto the main storage. So very simple, very straightforward. Now, I hope you enjoyed this bus as much as I did. Make sure you copy it and make sure you like and subscribe to the video if you did. Leave me a comment letting me know what you think about this design, and make sure you join me in the next one when we are going to be building what I think is going to be an awesome storage facility to make sure we have easy access to everything. Now, thank you for watching, and I'll catch you in the next one.